This was also the first really dramatic scene we shot, and it became kind of the touchstone for how the characters should look when they're
I feel sick.
really pushed.
It's so interesting when she's, you know, again, it's this moment of vulnerability where she says, I feel sick, and Joel's,
Glad I didn't, right?
again, being very didactic and pushing her away. She stands up for herself. This is the first time she stood up for herself.
How about, hey, Ellie, I know it wasn't easy, but it was either him or me.
And I love that line,
For saving my ass.
you know, it's either him or me.
Anything like that
Come
for
back
me,
to
Joel?
that.
And he can't do it. He can't admit that she saved his life.
Lead the way.
So this is, in the story, the first time Joel really is trusting Ellie and seeing her as pretty much an equal to him. He has to rely on her to survive in this world.
This is
survive
one of the
this journey.
first cinematics that we saw too, and we just,
Yeah.
it's still one of our favorites. We keep coming back to it and laughing because I love this exchange between the two of
What
them.
about me?
You stay here.
This is so stupid. You'd have more of a fucking chance if you let me help.
I am. You seem to know your way around a gun. You reckon you can handle that?
Well, I sort of shot a rifle before.
He's like, shit, rats, that's it? Fuck.
BBs.
I love that line. Oh, shit, here's what we gotta work with.
We usually avoid these kind of cameras that rotate around something that are trying to do too much, but it felt like this moment kind of needed it.
Yeah, I love
It's
it.
a weird parent-kid moment.
Yeah.
As soon as you fire,
But he's teaching her how to shoot to
we're gonna
kill.
Get another round in there quick. Listen to me. If I get into trouble,
There's a really nice,
every
when I watched like Ellie's performance, this balance between she's trying to be a hard ass, but you could see in her eyes she's kind of terrified of the situation.
Yeah.
But even in this, there's almost a little bit of excitement there too. Either whether it's about the reality of her killing isn't real, or if it's just, I have an opportunity to make Joel proud.
Opening up, opening up.
You're welcome.
Such an interesting look on your face here, because it's almost like I did good, but then you feel horrified by it. So interesting.
It's like, even though Ellie's used to killing, used to seeing this stuff in this world, it was still important to show this is having an effect on her.
Right.
And you're going to see that kind of carry throughout the game.
Well, it also kind of carries over into this moment as well too, because I realized what I just put her through. I love the way that, you know, we took that away from her. It's like almost gingerly. It's like, give me that.
It's like, you can't really compliment it because...
Right. You
it's
did
just what
good.
you
Yeah,
have-
there's no
yeah.
pat on the back. But then I turn around and I give her this, and it's like you said, there's a sadness to it.
Yeah. It's sad that in this world, these are the things that you have to bond over. Like, here's your gun.
And that's the reward.
Yeah.
But that knot of understanding is great.
Brandon and Najee.
There you go.
Yep.
Brandon, I think, had the hardest audition of anyone.
no kidding.
Because I literally almost took off his head. Not in this scene, not punching him. That fortunately was done by Ruben Langdon, who can punch way better than I can.
Leave him alone.
And Najee, too, when he came in red for Sam, that had that...
It's all right. They're not the bad guys. Lower the...
Just this kid that's kind of terrified to live in this world.
Yeah.
Man, you hit hard.
Yeah, well, I was trying to kill you.
And these two characters are really showing... They're kind of a mirror of Joel and Ellie's relationship.
If you haven't noticed, they don't keep kids.
And it's another warning for Joel, like this whole arc for Henry and Sam. Of what's going to happen if you stick with this girl? You're going to go through what these two characters are going to eventually end up.
I do like that Sam is a character that
Name was Joel.
seems genuinely scared, because a lot of the other characters
We don't know that.
can tend to be a little bit more badassy,
Right.
and he's just,
Brilliant idea of
He's young and he's scared. And I
Yes,
love that.
to me, he also comes across very sullen. Like
Yeah.
there's like just a little glimmer of hope and joy, but it's almost like anytime there is a moment of that, then Henry kind of takes that away from
It,
him.
it also gives Ellie an opportunity to play a mentor of sorts for him.
Not too far from
Yeah.
here. Be safer if we chat there.
All right, take us there.
Welcome to my office.
One thing that I think made Brandon such a great choice for this and the right choice for this is this scene about how much he owned it and the pride that he had in showing off this wonderful camp that they had made for themselves and kind of like trying to impress Joel, and Joel just come, very nonplussed about the whole thing. He's like, oh, good for you. You've done this.
And relax. We're safe.
Well, the interesting thing, the way I read it is like Joel is impressed, but he's not. He's trying not
Not
to
gonna
show.
show
He's
it.
trying to still test this kid. But there's a lot of he sees himself in Henry.
Yeah. Very, very much so. This is, I remember we going back and forth about this because
Oh yeah, because layout changed. Because initially they were going to go through the camp
Right.
at night, and then we had to change the layout, so we had to go in and re-record these lines.
That's our window.
well, there's something on the reverse that it doesn't really matter, but
Oh, it'll work.
when we shot this, the entire time that he was laying out this plan, I was just looking at him because it's like, I really care about your plan, kid. I care more about you. It's kind of like poker. You don't play the cards, you play the man.
Again, one of those fleeting moments where kids can be kids.
She doesn't seem bothered by all this.
Such a powerful line. And Joel completely just dismisses it. You guys were actually doing that in the background while we were doing this scene. It was so great. It wasn't like shot separately.
I know, we were just fooling around. You guys like, shut up.
Oh, it just seems like there's a lot of people putting their stock on the Fireflies these days.
Yeah, maybe there's a reason for that.
So you don't know.
I love this standoff, even though it's a sit-off almost between the two of them, where Joel's just pushing him for information just to see where this kid's grounded. That nod.
Yeah, the threat being so subtle, but it's there.
Yeah. And that's the other thing, again, that Brandon did with this that everybody else didn't do. They kind of really got in Joel's face, and he didn't. He didn't posture himself that much. It was just like,
This is us.
I'll take care of mine, you take care of yours.
Abandoned military radio station. Just
And
us.
also that he doesn't correct him about your daughter.
They're supposed to meet us there tomorrow.
Joel doesn't correct him. He's not, she's not my
You
daughter.
and your girl, you want to join us? It goes down tonight.
I guess we best rest up then.
And I guess that's the most Joel's going to give him.
Yeah. That's all Henry needs. Joel sleeping again. These were my favorite scenes where I just got to sleep.
No, we're gonna be moving fast, okay?
And
So
the
no matter
idea of
what,
these
just
two
stay
pairs that
like
are
glue,
coming together.
Like glue. Got it. Good.
And they're such great brothers.
Y'all ready?
Brandon and Aji did such a great job together.
How many bullets do you have left?
I just remember it was funny because jumping off of this bridge, there's just
A rope.
a line of tape, and then you have to like jump off of it.
Because
That
we were
was
both
funny.
stepping over it at first. They're like, no, this is like 50 feet down.
I know, like,
right.
oh, so we got to do a whole thing.
It looks ridiculous what we're doing. It's like, with our arms above our
I
head.
know.
And this part we're in the water and we had you on a cart.
That's right. And they
And we
were, like,
just pushed you
wheeling around.
across
Yeah.
mocap stage.
It was actually pretty violent being on that.
It was.
It's pretty scary. This was part of the audition scene that Brandon did that really just kind of helped us realize we had the right Henry.
He's awake.
Back to the salesman. It's like, hey, buddy, everything's okay.
I
Everything's
know.
all right.
I really like that about his character, that he's kind of a salesman.
You know, Sam's the one who spotted you. You guys are taking quite a bit of water. What's wrong? Henry! Get back, son! Hey. He's pissed, but he's not gonna do anything.
You sure about that?
Stop!
He's confident. He knows he can calm you down, but he needs Sam to stay out of the way.
Right, just in case.
Yeah.
Chance of making it, and you did. I'm coming back for you. I'm putting him at risk. Stay back.
think there's already the change there. Joel knows it's true.
Yeah.
Joel wouldn't have come back for him.
And even when we were shooting this too, I mean, that's you really get into that moment, and every time that I felt that hand on my shoulder, it's almost like that Hulk moment where you realize, oh, I felt bad for letting you see that part of me, because so far I really haven't, in these moments, let that demon out. I've done what I've had to do, but this is just cold-blooded murder I'm about to do.
The thing with Henry, which Brandon really brought to it, which is making light of everything for Sam. Everything is done for Sam. I
Right.
think he really is intimidated. He is scared in the situation, but he's making light of it so Sam isn't as scared as he is.
Because the second that Sam sees that he's scared, Sam will be scared. Silver lining kid.
This is the longest
Short
cinematic
scene.
in the game. I had to fit that in there. Quit this place from this, since we had it in the first trailer.
I can't quit you.
I remember when we first, the very, very beginning of this, when we like did the first table read through this and everything, and we talked about, I asked if there was going to be a moment of just a light shining through in this darkness, and you talked about this scene, and at that point it was just really kind of just real easy brush strokes of what it was going to be, and it really came into fruition and became this
Well, all the characters here have their guard down. It's kind of unique, because usually somebody's lying or somebody's hiding something.
Right.
And here's like, everybody has their guard down.
they're just talking about motorcycles.
You two deserve a little privacy.
And you were really giving too on this. We spent a lot of time on this, and there was this one scene where you just kind of let me ramble about you know, to where we really feel like we're coming midway into a conversation. I don't remember what was said, but it was just this cool moment.
But you went more into the details of like with Tommy and where you went and the States and all that stuff. I think that really helped kind of make this, the following takes much more natural.
Right, without all the rest of that
Yeah.
stuff, the preamble being there. But I love the turn that he gives right here. It's like the kids have gone to bed now, and we can just talk like adults.
Worst part about it all.
Animation and lighting, right? If you don't capture these looks in the eyes, this scene doesn't work.
Right. The thing that I love about this is that he's set up a little office for himself, kind of like what Henry did. You know, it's this,
What are you doing?
I'm being official, trying to be a grown-up. He's still a kid, and we see it in this moment.
I really enjoyed working with Brandon and Najee. Just having them on set was so much fun. They're such
Najee
good
especially,
dudes.
like
Najee's
a trip.
hilarious.
we're doing this crazy scene and we like cut and then he's like just starting dancing or
Yeah.
Singing whatever, you know, YouTube hot song at the moment.
Yeah.
You know, song bombing us all day.
They were so much fun. I just adore them too.
Is everything all right?
You got an opportunity to put so much of you into Ellie.
That's just because I can't write, so I just listen to Ashley talk and I was like, oh, that's a good line.
Have a good night.
That's giving me way too much credit.
How is it that you're never scared?
It's like
Who says that I'm not?
putting up the defense, making joke of it, as Ellie does.
Yeah.
And then seeing when she needs to, because that's the only way she's going to cheer him up. She's going to open up to him.
And also, she kind of throws at that bone, like, you know, scorpions are pretty creepy. That's not what I want to talk about.
Being by myself.
Which again, all this stuff she's saying here plays into what happens later when she finds out Joel's trying to give her up. He's giving her away to Tommy.
Yeah.
Those things out there. What if the
And it's
people
kind of the
who
same
sense-
thing we're seeing with Tess,
What if they're trapped
to
in
where
a
she
body
was,
control their body?
again, she knows what's going on, he knows what's going on, but it's looking externally for some kind of either comfort or hope or answer or something.
Well, we're a team now.
And then they just
We're gonna
always
figure
come
it
up
out.
empty.
Second,
I guess one thing I'm just thinking about now, which is all the stuff Sam is going through because he's bitten, is probably the stuff Ellie went through when she was first bitten, because she thought she was going to turn.
Says that they've moved
And it just happens that she was immune. But so that's what she kind of,
Do you think that's true?
all these realizations she's had.
I go back and forth. I mean, I'd like to believe it.
It's a powerful thing for essentially
It's kind of
kid
sad
to
because
say.
that's not what Sam wants to hear. He
Right.
wants to
Yeah.
hear that it's all going to be all right.
Right.
But she doesn't realize that's what
No,
he
death is terrible. It's a horrible, painful process, and you're all alone. You know.
I almost forgot. There. If he doesn't know about it, he can't take it away. All right.
This did make me sad because,
I'll see you tomorrow.
you know, he spent that whole night alone.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Oh
You know.
yeah.
Henry didn't go back in there.
I let him sleep in, just like.
Yeah, let him sleep in.
Oh.
And that was the last conversation he had. And that always made me so sad after I read that because I was like, oh,
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. And what would have happened if Henry had gone in there? I mean, the fact that
Smells good.
Henry wasn't there, I mean, plays into, you know, the culmination of this scene where he's just racked with guilt.
I mean, one thing we're very conscious of when putting the story together is we would have these really kind of dramatic moments that change the characters significantly, and then we would cut to some more time in the future.
Yeah.
And so you don't get to see right afterwards what happened to it, and then you get hints of how this affected the relationship, which is what you get into the next gameplay sequence. And this whole thing is, it's a huge change in Joel here, because now he sees, this is what's going to happen to me. The same thing that's happening to Henry right now is what would happen to me if I'm going to keep going and let Ellie get hurt.
Yeah.
And it's like, he's going to, after this moment, he makes the choice, like, I need to give her to Tommy.
Oh my god.
Sam?
Oh no.
I have no idea what that would do to a person to actually see that, to have to do that.
Yeah, and I remember talking with Brandon about this when he's saying it's all your fault. He's not talking to Joel, he's talking to himself.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, easy.
Yeah, the thing that's cool with this piece, Gustavo's music, is that you're carrying that weight. You're carrying the weight of that emotion of everything just happened onto the next scene, which even though they might not be thinking about Henry and Sam right this moment, but it's just that feeling is lingering going forward.
I own that shirt.
I'm pretty
I
sure
still think we
own
should
it.
sell off our mocap suits for charity.
Unwashed.
Jeffrey Pierce,
Who's the lady says?
Ashley Scott. Sorry, Ashley Hart.
Oh, yes.
Ashley Hart. She was married.
We didn't know the place was occupied. We're just trying to make our way through.
Through to where?
They're all right.
But you know these people?
Know him. He's my
The
goddamn.
chemistry was so good between
The two of
you
them.
and Jeffrey.
It was amazing how well, and I mean, Jeffrey's just a few years older than me, but it was interesting playing the older brother to him. And yeah, we felt like brothers immediately. It was crazy.
Oh, well, Jeffrey came, I mean, we almost cast Jeffrey
Yeah.
as Joel. And then once, like, months later, we needed to cast Tommy. I was like, oh,
Well.
what's Jeffrey Pierce doing? That's what he meant.
Thanks for not blowing my head off.
Would have been embarrassing, considering you're my brother-in-law.
And Ashley Scott, she came really close to being cast as Tess. And
Yeah.
when we needed Maria, I was like, oh,
We
Ashley
got the
Scott.
perfect person.
There were no auditions for these roles.
I love this awkward setup of this is how he meets his sister-in-law. How he meets
Yeah.
Jeffrey, you know, or Tommy's wife.
Story.
Why don't we bring him inside?
And you just get to see here now how Ellie's starting to become more secretive.
Well, also, it's
And
like
guarded.
the way they're standing and everything, it's like Ellie's kind of alone now. Like now it's like Joel is with Tommy and
There's no one familiar with Ellie.
It's quite the crew you got here.
Yeah, they're good men. This place gives them a second
the
chance.
theme of redemption.
Gives us all a second chance. So why'd you leave Boston?
We went through this so many times,
I've been on quite the adventure.
and each one of them I thought was great in its own little version. It was just kind of like trying to pick the right one. But this is where you get to see
Well, Joel's putting up a front here. I mean, he's trying to.
He's pitching his little
yeah.
brother. And it's so interesting to see them slip how they're two different men, but they instantly go back into those roles that they were before.
And just by the behavior here, you get hints of what happened in those 20 years.
Right.
How dark things went.
Like they're playing nice.
Right, they were happy to see each other, but now it's like,
It's
oh,
right
right,
underneath the
you
surface.
haven't changed.
And that's so true to life. Like, especially with brothers, you go back to that. I push these buttons and you do this.
This isn't for me, Tommy. This is for your damn cause.
My cause is my family.
And I loved, what Jeffrey was doing posture-wise,
Jesus, boy.
putting Joel on the offensive.
And now he's just like insulting everybody here and insulting his wife.
Tommy, I need this.
Again, just Joel just expects. I tell my little brother to do something, he needs to do it.
Right.
But I ain't taking that
Which
girl
is
on.
totally based on my brother.
This is how you gonna repay me, huh?
Repay you.
For all those goddamn years I took care of us.
Took care. That's what you call it? I got nothing but nightmares from those years.
You survived because of me.
It wasn't worth it.
Tommy here, Tommy and Maria shows that even in this world is horrible, you could find peace in it.
Right.
You could build a community. You don't have to resort to these things that Joel has.
That line was a great thing that Jeffrey improv'd on. Put your hands on me again. It's a good Southern phrase.
You okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Joel! Oh man, they were coming in from every direction. Then Maria was like, "We gotta run."
This is where you see Tommy realizes for the first time that Joel really cares for this girl. This isn't just a job. And that's where he has that change and he's like, oh crap.
I need to talk to you.
This is why he's asking me to do this.
Absolutely not. You tell him to go find somebody else.
And again, it's just such a real moment between a married couple. It's like
What's that all about?
honor and doing something for selfishness and everything else that doesn't play in this world anymore. Those are archaic ideals.
Tell you where the lab is?
I don't want you to go out there because you're going to get killed, and we don't owe him anything. Because I'm sure all she knows is the 20-year-old Joel, 20-year-old version of Joel. Why would you risk your life for that guy? You hate him, essentially.
One fuck up and then I turn into one of those widows, okay?
And for Ellie, it was important to show that she could just read Joel. She has this bullshit detector that just by the way he's answering her questions, she understands exactly what he asked Tommy to do.
Maria.
Here we go.
Love this moment. Here we go.
If anything at all happens to him, it's on you.
The posture and everything. He knows he's in the wrong. He knows he can't ask Tommy to do this.
Yeah.
She's thankful,
Yeah, I know.
I'll take that girl of yours to the Fireflies. You don't have to worry about it.
He really cares for you.
There's so much more behind it, though, than just care. It's Tommy showing that he's the bigger man, that he's the better man. That he's allowing his brother to be shallow and
Well,
selfish.
he's I think he knows what his brother's been through.
Girl of yours, she took
And he
my
knows
arm,
why he
she
can't
threw
go
it
through
off.
that again.
Which way? Come on.
This is probably my favorite scene.
What a long day this was.
About boys, movies, deciding which.
I honestly think this is one of the best scenes that you wrote, Neil,
It's bizarre.
Get up.
because it says so much about this world
I say
and
no.
especially Ellie, where she's at, and realizing how different and how much of a chasm there is between this world and that.
I agree.
Goddamn stupid.
Well, I guess we're both disappointed with each other then.
What do you want?
I think I really like about this scene is that
Rid of me the whole time.
they're both kind of, I guess, being selfish in a way, and yet it's coming from a place because they really care about each other. Like they don't understand that they both have been through horrible things, and they each think what they've been through has been worse.
That I'm gonna end up like Sam?
I love that she calls him out on that.
Infected.
What are you so afraid
Take
of?
care of
How many
myself.
close calls have we had?
Well, we seem to be doing all right so far.
And now you'll be doing even better with Tommy.
Not her, you know.
What?
And it's like the stakes are high, and it's like, okay, well, then I'm gonna drop this bomb. Not her.
Mighty thin ice here.
It's like, how many years has it probably been for Joel since he even like
Don't bring
thought
up
about
that
it,
name.
mentioned it?
You have no idea what loss is.
I think Joel's thought of that name every day, but I don't think he's heard it said. That shove that you gave, that was nowhere in the script.
I think that came out of frustration, definitely, because when we had come back and we couldn't find it, and I wasn't necessarily frustrated with you, I was frustrated with us in the scene, and I was like, oh, fuck.
It's so cold of Joel to do this, and I've had people on the team ask me to remove this part, that he's being too cold, and I'm like, no, it's like, because she's being so vulnerable and he's having these feelings, he's trying to shut it down. That's why he's being so cold. It was so important for me to keep that in there.
When he says you're not my daughter, it's almost an insult.
And it's kind of the opposite of what he's feeling.
This scene was such a great opportunity to show even just like all these mini arcs with characters. You know, we don't have a lot of time, and we're not gonna, we can only tell Joel and Ellie's story. We can't go into such detail with Bill and Tommy and Tess and Marlene. But you get this great resolution between these brothers because you get the full arc of it in just a short amount of time.
It's like the way I approached it is the seed has been planted. Like when she says, I'll just be more scared, that Joel just needs time. And in time, he will change his mind because he doesn't want any, deep down, he doesn't want anything that will hurt Ellie or. So over there, the idea is just this little horse riding montages. That change is brewing. And Gustavo's music doesn't hurt.
What's so great about how this plays out is there's really nothing happening but just this passage of time.
That used to be a level that you played through. And just during production cuts, we changed it. So it actually worked out better. It just became this idyllic idea that you never fully reach. You just see it from the outside.
Where is this lab of theirs?
It's all the way out, University of Eastern Colorado.
Pointing out this moment that there was probably a time when these two used to watch college football together, you know, and calling out, he's like, hey, go Bighorns, you know, for our college that we made up. I want one of their t-shirts so bad, University East Colorado, because Colorado is such a big state.
I don't want her coming after me.
Sorry for stealing your horse.
Look, come back to town. Let's discuss it at least.
You know me, my mind's all made up.
University, Eastern Colorado. How do I find this lab?
It's in the science building. Looks like a giant mirror. You can't miss it.
And the idea of offering Joel a place of refuge, a place of redemption.
Well, and originally we had some, I think there was a line that I threw in there, something that was like maybe someday or something. It was just too on the nose. And we ended up saying we don't need that.
Yeah.
This needs to be
The look is enough.
Well, and the offer to me is enough.
Mm-hmm. We're about to hear Steve Bloom.
Lovely Steve. Silk-throated Steve Bloom.
You're looking for the fireflies. They've all left.
Yeah, no shit.
I'm dead. Or I will be soon. Got me
What a macabre scene, though. I love that Ellie's just kind of
years that felt like we were
thumbing through things.
fucking thing was
She's pretty frustrated with not having found the fireflies, not knowing where to go.
Come on. Looking for the others.
Man, I love Steve Bloom's voice.
Mary's Hospital in Salt Lake City.
He makes me want to clear my throat.
Trying to save the world.
It's mean.
Good luck with that.
Do you know where that is?
I know the city.
Is it far?
It
Again, this is where we really start kind of getting the sense of how Joel and Ellie are just chasing their tail. There's, you know, chasing a phantom.
For me, is what I wanted from this is not to overplay it, not to like have Ellie cry or scream or.
Shit. Joel. There.
There's probably a lot of panic that happened between this moment and the next.
Well, and what a
Not
great,
seeing.
what a great line too. You got to tell me what to do. When almost the entire game she said, "Don't tell me what to do."
And here is where we've been lying to everybody when we've been saying you don't play as Ellie.
That's right.
Yeah.
Asked point blank. Do you play as Ellie?
No.
I know.
In this moment, a lot of this project and the story has been constructed around this moment, which is where the roles flip, where now it's Ellie that has to protect Joel and essentially bring him back to life.
Bye-bye, Bunny.
It's a pretty cool reveal too. The pan up.
And
There's Ellie as the hunter.
what we wanted here is also is like, you don't know exactly what happened to Joel, what's the state, how much time has passed.
Poor buddy.
But the way that she's doing that, you can see that she's been doing this for a while.
You'll just startle it.
Remember how tired your arms got holding that bow stretched?
That bow, it was so heavy. And I remember that I was shaking and I was like, hey guys, this is really heavy.
There's David. Nolan North.
Nolan North, ladies and gentlemen.
Ruben Langdon is James.
Ruben Langdon, ladies and gentlemen.
Remember, like, I showed Nolan a part of the game early on, and he's like, oh, you gotta get me a part somewhere in there. I'm like, okay, I got something for you.
I got a role for you. But I will say this, because I mean, I was on set just for a brief part of this, but that's when I mean, I've always been a fan of Nolan's work, but that's when I was truly awed by him at how he crafted this character. He took what you had and just really brought it to life.
Yeah. I told him the most important part is don't play a bad guy.
Yeah.
This guy's charismatic. We have to believe that people will follow this guy.
And that Ellie could trust him.
Yeah.
Buddy boy can go get it. He comes back with what I need. The deer is all yours. Anyone else shows up.
You put one right between my eyes.
That's right.
It just shows what versatility Nolan really has.
Yeah, that voice, I mean,
It's so comforting.
it is very comforting, but it's interesting now that I'm hearing it, knowing what we went through.
Take that rifle.
It's a little unsettling now, hearing it. 'Cause I'm like, ugh.
Back up.
It's a weird gameplay thing, but we went through a version where like, okay, she can only carry one long gun at a time, so we have to put the bow on the ground. They're like, no, it's going to be 2 guns. Okay, well, let's put the bow back on her backpack. No, it's she can carry. And we removed the scope. They used to have a scope on it. We're like, oh, we don't want Ellie to have the scope.
Bring him with us.
I remember being so relieved in this scene when we switched the gun out and I got to put the bow down. I was like, ah.
I love how David complies too. How he just kind of like submits to a little girl.
Well, the thing is like, he knows the stories. He knows what happened in the university, and he's trying to figure this kid out. This whole sequence, he's sizing her up.
How early or how late on in the script did you write David?
I mean, it was written not that long before we shot it.
Because remember you
It
like
started out
mentioned,
from
like,
a pretty
cannibal
small,
king.
yeah, it was referred as the Cannibal King. We just knew that Ellie was going to run into the worst of mankind and she would persevere and come out on the other side. But then once like Nolan came in and started like putting David together, it was like it became a lot more interesting to make him this really charismatic guy that is just infatuated with Ellie. Now when things get real, you see who kind of glimpses of who he really is.
Because there is that moment in that other scene where he makes it seem like, okay, you're in control, but she never was.
Yeah.
Had some practice.
Well, you handled yourself pretty nice back there.
What's cool about David and the conversation I had with Nolan about him is that he's trying to win Ellie over by being honest with her. And here's the part where he's like, I feel like she's ready. I'm gonna kind of reveal myself.
No such thing as luck.
And I think like I could still get her to come around.
Now, you see, I believe that everything happens for a reason.
Sure.
The other interesting thing, thematically, that's everything happens for a reason is the same thing that Marlene really believes. That everything happens like it's something she repeats to Joel at the end. But you're kind of seeing how all these characters are just, how much they're willing to go for what they believe in.
When you talked about like being surprised by your own writing, was that a moment like that, or was that something that you had intentionally done to where those characters were going to?
No, I think it's just something you think about, and there's a theme that just kind of sticks around in the project, and then characters end up talking about that stuff because you're thinking about it all the time.
Traveling with a little girl. You see, everything happens for a reason.
Again, another one of those moments where you think Ellie's got control.
Don't get upset. It's not your fault.
Yeah, and then James there.
You're just a kid.
I love that.
James lower the gun.
No way, David. I'm not gonna let her go.
It was such a small role, but I really like what Ruben added there. And that the dynamics between James and David, how there's conflict between these two characters, but there's still respect, and he's still listening to David, even though he's questioning his leadership right there.
That's not your concern.
Part of me, the way I read that was every time James looked at David, it was like, who the fuck are you right now? What are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, he was putting on a show and he saw it.
Oh, thanks.
To me, it's interesting how David almost treats Ellie like quarry. Like, you know, you're a sport.
Yeah.
Again, Ellie having this kind of bullshit detector, you see her scared here because I think she realizes there's something really wrong with these guys. I don't know what. I just need to get away.
So interesting from watching this, though, I would completely believe David. I'd follow that guy. It's crazy.
It's because you're a cannibal. This little moment, this breath before going to see what's downstairs. And again, for players, it would have been like a while now since they've seen Joel.
Joel?
Once again, Joel's asleep.
I only managed to get a little bit of food.
I love how these roles have switched, too. Where now it's, you know, the protected taking care of the protector.
Move your arm.
It used to be open, and then we're like, oh, we should probably stitch that
It
up.
was also on the other side. We had to come back and reshoot it, too. Oh, continuity.
Actually, this one, I remember we shot this one again because this is going Naughty Dog method. Everybody can like say the 2 cents. Amy Puckett, one of our coordinators, said, where's Ellie's backpack? And we shot it without thinking about Ellie's backpack. And it was like, oh, we should bring it back in and use it as a pillow. It's like such a cool little touch.
You're gonna make it.
Yeah, those shivering things was pretty cool.
Yeah. It's a towel thing, right? He's able to
Let's
do
see,
that.
you did that.
Well, yeah,
I mean,
but it's still
obviously he animated it, but.
a great moment of them falling asleep next to each other, too. Again, her watching over him. To me, you really get a sense of the oppressiveness of the world with all the introduction with all of these different kinds of enemies. It's like you feel like you're fighting this multi-front battle. It's not just these are the bad guys, and it's so clear.
I'll come back for you.
Yeah, and just how much Ellie's now willing to put herself on the line to just get them away from Joel.